You say that Google takes its content moderation responsibilities very seriously. That's your testimony here today. Is that fair to say? You strive to be even-handed and neutral.
Yes, we construct our algorithms to be politically neutral.
Analytically objective and apolitical, I think, were your exact words.
Exactly.
Is that
yes.
right? And you don't impose filters based on political viewpoints. That's your testimony.
That's correct.
And despite the fact that almost exclusively your executives, employees donate to one political party, I think 1% of the donations that came from Google in 2016 went to Republicans or Donald Trump. All the rest went to the other party, Hillary Clinton, the Democrats. It is your testimony that you never use content moderation to advance an ideological agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator, and it's it is both contrary to our mission, contrary to our business interest, and it would be incompatible with the systems that we build to work political bias in there, which I think is why we've had third-party studies, including the ones that I referenced, that demonstrate that we do not have political bias.
And inconsistent with your basic values, I imagine you would say.
Inconsistent with our values.
Except for when you do it in China, right?
You're
happy to censor for the repressive authoritarian Chinese regime, like for instance with Google.cn, happy to censor away any mention of Tiananmen Square, happy to help the Chinese government maintain control of all information within the country, happy to help them control the information flow to their own citizens. You're happy to do all of that. Would you call that censorship with an ideological agenda?
Senator, we don't offer almost any of our products in China. We don't offer Google search.
Wait. Are you saying that Google CN did not include censorship tools based on what the Chinese regime asked for? Is that your testimony?
Google,
just reminds you you're under oath
we have not. We have not.
Google CN did not include censorship material?
Senator, I don't know what you're
not familiar with Google CN?
I'm referencing the fact that we exited China in 2010, and we did so because Google, at that point, in addition to being under attack, we felt that the censorship requirements that were being applied to Google were not compatible with the products that we were able to.
But you did offer Google CN. You developed it, and it included censorship tools that would have screened out things like mentions of Tiananmen Square. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Senator. Are you referring to Project Dragonfly?
Oh well, since I wasn't, but because that's a separate thing. But since you mentioned Project Dragonfly, why don't you tell us about it? Is it active right now?
It's not, Senator.
You're able to say that for the record. It's not active. You've abandoned Project Dragonfly?
Yes, we've terminated that.
Are you willing to commit today here that Google will not agree to or participate in any form of censorship with the Chinese regime in China against Chinese citizens? Or will you commit to that? You will not agree to any information or restrictions on data flow in China, the Chinese market?
Senator, I'm trying to imagine hypothetically what you're referencing. We don't provide search.
Google CN, for instance.
We don't reference China's search in China. Fundamentally in China, we actually do very little today, certainly compared to any other major technology company. We really...
So you won't block search terms for Uyghurs in concentration camps or Tiananmen Square? You won't do that in any business, any venture going forward?
We don't...
No, I'm asking you won't, because we know you have in the past. That's what Google CN was. You know you've contemplated it with Project Dragonfly. I'm asking you now for a commitment. I'm glad to hear you say that Project Dragonfly has been canceled. I think that's news. So that's good to hear, because there's been news reports that it's still active. So I'm delighted to hear that.
We've been clear that we have no current plans to go into China in the search market.
That's great. So that's great. And you're committing to me here today that you will not in the future do so, and you will not engage in censorship in China.
What we're willing to commit to, Senator, is that any decision to ever look at going back into the China search market is one that we would take only in consultation with key stakeholders.
Yeah, that's what you said in response to Senator Blumenthal's questions about whether or not you submit to an audit. It was the longest no in the English language. Now you're not giving me a yes or a no. Let me just come back to a question that Senator Blumenthal asked I thought was interesting. You're confident that Google hasn't been infiltrated by Chinese intelligence?
We see no evidence of that, Senator.
What do you think about General Dunford, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, his comment at the Atlantic Council a few months ago that typically, I'm quoting him, typically if a company does business in China, they're automatically going to be required to have a cell of the Communist Party in that company, and that is going to lead to the intellectual property from that company finding its way to the Chinese military. Do you think he's right about that, wrong about that?
Senator, we do, as I mentioned before, barely any business in China, so I don't
Which
have
you have
really
done in
the
the
basis.
past, and you have tried to.
2010, we exited the country.
That wasn't that long ago.
10 years ago.
Okay. Well, my point is this. You've been more than willing to engage in ideological censorship in the largest market in the world. You have been more than happy to partner with the most repressive authoritarian regime on the planet, all for profits, whatever it is that is good for Google. Why would anybody believe you now when you say you won't submit to a third-party audit? You just answered Senator Blumenthal no to that. You won't commit to me that you won't engage in censorship when it suits your purposes in China and the Chinese market, for instance, in the future. Why would anybody believe you now when you say we don't ever impose an ideological agenda? What assurances can you give us?
Senator, I think what I can tell you is that in China today, we don't offer any of the products that you're referencing that would...
No, I mean here, what assurance? Why would we believe you now when you say in the United States or anywhere that you do business? Why would we believe anything Google says about what it does or does not do in terms of promoting an ideological agenda? We know you've done it in the past. We know you do it when it suits your bottom line. Why would we believe you now? What assurances can you give, besides your own testimony?
Senator, I fundamentally disagree that we're doing, that these are practices for our bottom line. I will tell you that Google has a demonstrated track record of building search engines that meet the needs of consumers here and around the world. We are a trusted brand. I don't know what answer you're looking for, but it's...
Well, what I'm looking for is a little honesty, and what I'm also looking for is some accountability. So let me give you another shot at Senator Blumenthal's question. Will you submit to an independent third-party audit about your content moderation practices?
Again, we have plenty of people looking at our content moderation practices.
Yes,
The Economist just did a year-long study of our content.
The Economist is not an independent audit. They're not
It was entirely independent of Google.
So is that a yes? If you're happy to do it for them, then you feel like...
If third parties want to moderate...
You'll open your books
they look at us...
Big news we're going to make today. Is this a yes? We're getting to yes.
No, I'm telling you that Google's content moderation has been looked at by
So sad. So sad. Let me ask you about YouTube, some other difficult decisions. China seems to be difficult for you. YouTube is also apparently very difficult for you. Why isn't it, what is so hard about ending the automatic referral of videos featuring minors to pedophiles? Why is that difficult? Why doesn't YouTube just do it? You know you can stop it. Why won't you just do it?
Senator, I'm not sure.
You're not familiar with this issue?
No, I'm familiar with the issue that you're referring to. Based on our policy decisions that we've made earlier this year, we have eliminated referencing or recommending videos that contain minors in risky situations, risky conditions.
Wait, so you're telling me that you've turned off the auto, you've taken them out of the algorithm, you've turned off the auto referral, you're no longer recommending videos with minors?
Yes, not all minors. There will be situations where there's perfectly legitimate video footage containing minors, but videos that contain minors in risky conditions, we have stopped recommending those videos.
How much money does YouTube make from videos featuring children?
We don't break down money that way, Senator.
You don't know what it really, because I thought the response to the New York Times was that it would be devastating for your business model.
I don't know that reference. We don't. I can tell you that the kinds of videos that you're referencing, we have no desire to see pedophiles utilizing YouTube.
I wouldn't have thought so either.
And that's the reason why we've taken a number of steps.
How about this? You may know that I've introduced a bill that would codify this into law. Steps, it sounds like the ones you say you've voluntarily taken. So will Google support that bill that would stop any company, yours or others, from automatically referring videos featuring minors in this way?
I'd be happy to. I haven't looked at the bill, but we'd be happy to look at it. And certainly it's an area it sounds like we have a common interest in working towards a successful outcome on.
Well, it's certainly an area in which I think the American people have an interest in protecting their children, just as the American people have an interest in getting information that is free and fair, just as the American people have an interest in having their data protected.
Absolutely.
Just as the American people have an interest in having companies that describe themselves as a proudly American company, those are your words.
Absolutely.
From not doing doing business with, sharing secrets with, or otherwise promoting the worst, most authoritarian regime on the planet, which is China. So, I'll just associate myself with the remarks of, I think, all of my colleagues here. Clearly, our trust and patience in your company and the behavior of your monopoly has run out. It has certainly run out with me, and I think it's time for some accountability. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.